The Council of Cardinals met this week to study the Vatican's financial offices, and 19 prelates join the College of Cardinals. All this and more coming up. Hello and welcome to Vatican Connections. We're going to be looking at the full slate of meetings lined up at the Vatican this week and the Consistory to create new cardinals. The week started with a 3-day meeting of the Council of Cardinals, or the so-called C8. The Council met at the Santa Marta to continue reviewing the work of different Vatican departments. The focus was on the Vatican Bank and the economic and administrative offices of the Holy See. The Cardinals got reports from the various commissions that are studying the economic activities of the Vatican and the committee studying the mission and function of the Vatican Bank. Vatican spokesperson Father Federico Lombardi said the Cardinals are working on the draft of a new constitution for the Curia, but that document is not close to being finished. He also said the Cardinals have now given the Holy Father their proposals regarding the Vatican Bank, and the matter now rests in the Pope's hands. 2 more sessions of meetings have been scheduled. The Council of Cardinals will meet again April 29th to 30th and July 1st to 4th. Once the Council of Cardinals meetings wrapped up, it was time for the extraordinary consistory for the creation of new cardinals. The creation of new cardinals actually takes place on the 3rd and final day of a meeting of the entire college. The first 2 days are a sort of general assembly, and the College of Cardinals, along with the new cardinal designates, get together. The consultation days began on Thursday, and the theme was the family. Now, Pope Francis asked Cardinal Walter Kasper to address the cardinals. His talk was titled The Gospel of the Family. This has gotten people talking because back in 1993, when Cardinal Kasper was a bishop in Germany, he and 2 other bishops wrote a pastoral letter telling priests they could give communion to divorced and civilly remarried Catholics who were convinced that their first marriages were invalid even if they had not received annulments. Now that led to a long theological debate with then Cardinal Ratzinger. The debate was carried out in the pages of theological journals and presentations. Eventually, the German bishops were forced to overturn their policy. The Vatican spokesperson, Father Federico Lombardi, pointed out that the consistory is a place for the cardinals to express their thoughts freely and have an open conversation. He reminded that it's not a place where decisions will be made. In the days leading up to the consistory, all eyes were on the 19 cardinal designates. Cardinal Leopoldo Brenes of Managua, Nicaragua, made news with his departure. He locked up his house himself early in the morning, dressed almost incognito. He met with his auxiliary bishop at the airport, where cameras captured every moment of his check-in process. He filled in all his old forms, dealt with his own tickets, and after greeting well-wishers throughout the airport, grabbed his own bag and boarded the flight. Meanwhile, back in Italy, one cardinal decided he would not make the trip to Rome. 98-year-old Cardinal designate Loris Capovilla will not travel from Bergamo to Rome. He decided the trip would be too tiring. Cardinal Capovilla is totally lucid. In fact, he runs a small museum in Sotto il Monte, Bergamo, which is dedicated to John the 23rd. But he doesn't leave home very often anymore. He does say daily Mass for a small group of nuns who also take care of him. He is expected to receive his red beretta in his hometown on March 1st in a church that was consecrated by Pope John the 23rd. Pope Francis is expected to appoint someone to represent him in Sotto il Monte. Turning to the extraordinary synod on the family, we are learning about the reality for Catholic families around the world. This week, the bishops of Japan released their report based on the questions that were sent out by the Synod of Bishops. The Japanese bishops pointed out that less than 1% of Japan is Catholic. That means most Catholics are married to non-Catholics, and they get influenced by the way the rest of the population views marriage and the family. The bishops also pointed out that after the Second World War, Japan threw itself into recovering economically. This meant people moved away from their families, worked long hours, and women who previously stayed at home now entered the workforce. Children were now sent to after-hours schools. The result of all of this was a weakened family bond. The traditional three-generation family pretty much disappeared, and families spending time together became a rarity. Now, in light of that, the Japanese bishops say that most Japanese Catholics are unaware of the Church's teaching on marriage, family, and sexuality, and if they are aware, they ignore it because it just doesn't fit with Japanese reality. Last time, we brought you a clip from Pope Francis's meeting with young couples or engaged couples on Valentine's Day. Now, by popular demand, we're going to bring you more of that this time. The key part of that meeting was a question and answer session with couples, asking the Pope about different issues that young couples often face or doubts they might have as they prepare for marriage in today's world. So here is more of Pope Francis's conversation with engaged couples.
Holy Father, this is our second couple. Holy Father, we are Stefano and Valentina. We're 30 years old. We live in two little towns of Ciociaria. Stefano is from Casamari and Valentina from Vallecorsa. We are very much in love. Between high points and low points, we try to follow the Lord, but it was not always so. Our past was characterized by a period of darkness without the Lord. I converted after the blessing of a Franciscan priest, 2 minutes of talking and going from not knowing where I was, from not believing, I came closer to, I came back to the Lord and to the sacraments. I left my irregular life, the irregular life that I had led, and I began to think, I began to think deeply about it. From that moment, I began to appreciate even the little things, simple emotions, simple and unique emotions that God alone can give.
We met at World Youth Day in Madrid, and each one of us carried in our backpack prayers and hopes and curiosities and questions that didn't have answers. After 7 months, we got engaged and began to form a future together.
Holiness, to live together every day is a challenge to face. There is a style of life of couples, a daily spirituality that we want to appreciate. What advice can you give us?
Vivere insieme è un'arte.
To live together is an art.
Un cammino paziente.
It's a patient journey.
Bello e affascinante.
Beautiful and fascinating.
Non finisce quando vi siete conquistati l'un l'altro. Anzi,
it doesn't end when you've been each one has been conquered by the other.
Questo cammino di ogni giorno
Actually, that's simply when it begins.
regole che si possono riassumere in queste tre parole che tu hai detto.
This journey of every day has rules that can be summarized in 3 words that I've already said to families,
Ho ripetuto tante volte alle famiglie.
that you can already learn to use amongst yourselves.
Permesso,
Please,
posso, tu hai detto. Permesso, grazie.
thank you, and excuse me.
Posso, permesso.
May I, or can
È
I?
la richiesta gentile di poter entrare nella vita di qualcun altro con rispetto e attenzione.
It's a gentle request to be able to enter into the life of the other person with respect and attention.
Posso fare questo?
We need to learn how to ask, may I do this? Would it please you if we did this?
Iniziativa, che educhiamo così i figli. Vuoi che questa sera usciamo?
If we take this initiative,
Insomma, chiedere
we're
permesso
also educating our children.
significa sapere entrare con cortesia nella vita degli altri.
Would you like to go out this evening?
Saper entrare con cortesia nella vita degli altri. E non è facile.
We must enter and live in the life of the other with courtesy.
A volte invece si usano maniere un po' pesanti, come certi scarponi da montagna. L'amore vero non si impone con durezza.
Sometimes we use these words in a slightly heavy way.
Nei fioretti, San Francesco
True love, however, doesn't impose itself with hardness and aggression.
Sappi che la cortesia
In the flowers of St. Francis is found this, the fioretti of St. Francis is found this expression.
è sorella della carità,
Know that
la
courtesy
quale
is one of the
spegne
properties of God,
l'odio e conserva l'amore.
and courtesy is the sister of charity,
La cortesia conserva l'amore.
which puts out hate
Oggi
and
nelle
conserves
nostre
love.
famiglie, nel nostro mondo,
Yes,
spesso
courtesy
violento e arrogante,
conserves love.
c'è bisogno di molta cortesia. Sappiamo tutti che non esiste la famiglia perfetta e neppure il marito perfetto o la moglie perfetta.
We all know that there doesn't exist a perfect family, and neither a perfect husband or a perfect wife.
Esistiamo noi, peccatori.
But we exist, sinners.
Gesù che ci conosce bene ci insegna un segreto.
Jesus, who knows us well, teaches us a secret.
Non finire mai una giornata senza chiedersi perdono.
Never finish a day
Senza che la
without
pace
asking for pardon,
torni nella nostra casa.
without a day so that peace will return to the house, to our family each day.
Litigare fra gli sposi. Sempre c'è qualcosa, ma abbiamo litigato. Forse vi siete arrabbiati, forse è volato un piatto, ma per favore ricordate questo.
He said it's natural that as couples you're going to argue,
senza fare la pace.
you are going to fight, and perhaps even to the point of throwing plates across the room. But nevertheless, it's very important, absolutely essential that you do not end the day without having asked pardon of the other.
E per fare la pace non è necessario fare un bel discorso. No,
And to make peace, you don't have to make a beautiful speech.
Ma mai finire. Perché? Perché se tu non finisci la giornata senza fare la pace, quello che hai dentro il giorno dopo è freddo, è duro, è più difficile fare la pace.
If you don't make peace before going to bed, before finishing the day, then you'll wake up the next morning and that lack of peace inside of you, which was hot perhaps the day before, will have become cold and hard, and it'll be much harder to make peace the next day.
Il matrimonio durerà e andrà avanti. Quando vengono nelle udienze o a messa,
If we learn to ask pardon, to ask forgiveness and to pardon one another, our marriage will endure and it will go ahead.
Io le faccio la domanda: chi sopportò a chi? È bello quello. Tutti si guardano, mi guardano e dice: ma tutte e due. E quello è bello, quella è una bella testimonianza.
So when he was talking to couples, he'd say, "Who supports who?" And they'd always end up saying, "Oh no, we both support each other." And he said, "No, that's a beautiful thing."
What else was Pope Francis doing this week? Well, let's take a look. Last Sunday, Pope Francis visited the Roman parish of St. Thomas the Apostle. CNS has more on that visit.
Cosa c'è nel nostro cuore? C'è amore? Pensiamo, io amo ai miei genitori, ai miei figli, a mia moglie, al mio marito, alla gente del quartiere, agli ammalati. Pensa, amo? Ci odio? io odio qualcuno, perché tante volte noi troviamo che c'è odio, no? Ma io amo tutti meno a questo, a questo, a questa, no? Questo è odio, no? Che nel mio cuore perdono, c'è un atteggiamento di perdono per quelli che mi hanno offeso, o c'è un atteggiamento di vendetta, me la pagherai, Dobbiamo domandarci cosa c'è dentro, perché questo che è dentro viene fuori e fa il male, se è malo, e se è buono viene fuori e fa il bene. È tanto bello dirci la verità a noi stessi e vergognarsi quando noi ci troviamo in una situazione che non è come Dio la vuole, non è buona. Il mio cuore è in una situazione di odio, di vendetta, a tante situazioni peccaminose. Se come è il mio cuore?
Wednesday was the general audience. Now, just before the audience, Pope Francis met with 19 inmates at his residence. They were from prisons in Pisa and Pianosa. He met with each inmate individually, and the whole gathering lasted about 45 minutes. Then Pope Francis proceeded to St. Peter's Square for his general audience, where he continued his catechesis series on the sacraments.
Quando è stata la ultima volta che ti sei confessato? E ti sei confessata? Ognuno pensi. 2 giorni, 2 settimane, 2 anni, 20 anni, 40 anni, ma ognuno faccia il conto, ma ognuno si dica: quando è stata l'ultima volta che io mi sono confessato? E se è passato tanto tempo, non perdere un giorno di più, vai avanti, che il sacerdote sarà buono. È Gesù lì, e Gesù è più buono che i preti, e Gesù ti riceve con tanto amore. Sei coraggioso e avanti alla confessione.
On Friday, in between meetings with the College of Cardinals, Pope Francis met with the President of Brazil, Dilma Rousseff. This was not their first meeting. Rousseff attended the Pope's inauguration Mass last year, and of course, she welcomed him to Brazil this past summer for World Youth Day. Brazilian media report that President Rousseff was planning to invite the Pope to Brazil for the World Cup. This week, Pope Francis also met with bishops from the Czech Republic who were on their ad limina visit, and next week, the bishops of Spain arrive for their ad liminas. There were several nominations this week. Let's see who they were. 2 more members of the Curia learned that they will keep their jobs. At the Congregation for Eastern Churches, Cardinal Leonardo Sandri was confirmed as prefect, and Archbishop Cyril Vasil was confirmed as secretary of that congregation. But that wasn't all. Pope Francis also nominated new members of the congregation, including Coptic Patriarch Isaac Sidrak, Chaldean Patriarch Louis Sacco, the Byzantine Archbishop of Pittsburgh, and the Latin Rite Bishop of the Diocese of Novosibirsk, Russia, as well as Bishop Dennis Hart of Melbourne, Australia, Archbishop William Kurtz of Louisville, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Secretary of State, Cardinal Mario Poli of Buenos Aires, who is also the ordinary for Eastern Rite Catholics in Buenos Aires, and Cardinal Gerhard Müller of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. As well, the Pope confirmed some of the current members of the congregation for another 5-year term, and you can see the full list of members on our blog. Over at the Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity, the Pope confirmed Cardinal Kurt Koch as prefect and Archbishop Brian Farrell as secretary of the council. The Pope also appointed 3 new consultors for the Commission for Relations with Jews. They are Bishop Charles Prowse of Sale, Australia, Father Christian Rustihauser of Switzerland, and Professor Gregor Maria Hoff. Meanwhile, in the U.S., 2 new bishops were appointed this week, one for Wichita, Kansas. Monsignor Cardinal Kem of Springfield, Illinois becomes bishop there. Monsignor Kem has been Vicar General and moderator of the Curia in Springfield. The second appointment was an auxiliary for Miami. The Pope appointed Monsignor Peter Baldacchino. Now, he's originally from Malta. He entered the seminary and was ordained in Newark, New Jersey. Since 1999, he's been the Chancellor of the Catholic Mission in Turks and Caicos, and currently also serves as pastor of Our Lady of Divine Providence Parish on the island of Providenciales. Since 1998, Turks and Caicos has actually been supplied priests from the Archdiocese of Newark. Well, that's it for Vatican Connections. Now, don't forget, we are still looking for your experiences of faith over the past year. Send those to us via email, Twitter, or Facebook. From everyone here, thanks for watching and see you next time.